Now, if you've been following the news around the Triumph Trident, you might have come across this news piece where there was this leaked photo from a presentation that showed that the Trident platform is going to be expanded into multiple body styles. We always knew that. In fact, those of you who watched my review of the Trident on Overdrive would also remember that I mentioned that there is going to be an adventure tourer that is going to be built on this platform. We now have confirmation and images from Triumph themselves that they are actually building a Triumph Tiger Sport 660. It has a bit of that phaser vibe, the Yamaha phaser vibe, with that underbelly exhaust and that quarter fairing. And if you look at the face, I think it looks a bit Aprilia with that little dam in the center of those sleek headlights. It's a bit Aprilia, but I think once that camouflage comes off, it is going to look excellent. I think it's going to look very sporty. It's going to appeal to people who are planning to buy their first big adventure motorcycle, but that's what I think. So this Tiger Sport 660 is based on the Trident platform, of course. So it uses the same engine, puts out about 81 PS and 64 Newton meters. And knowing Triumph, I'm also sure that they will tinker around with the gearing. This is an adventure tourer after all, so they might add a little bit better low range to it. That's what my estimate is. In the state of tune that we've seen it on the Trident, I think it works extremely well, both low down as well as mid range. But here they might just tinker it around a little bit more because this motorcycle is intended for the rider plus the pillion and the luggage. So they might just play around with that gearing a little bit. Now, if you notice, 81 PS and 64 Newton meters, that's very close to the Tiger 850 Sport's 85 PS or 92 Newton meter output, right? So it's not really going to be more of a numbers game, right? It's not going to be more about the power being so close to the 850. What's really going to differentiate these two vehicles is the ride height, is the chassis. Now, because this is based on the Trident chassis, the chassis is going to be lower, the seat height is going to be lower. Remember, the Trident seat height is at about 805 millimeters. I'm expecting the Tiger 660 Sport to also sit around the same seat height. Whereas the Tiger 850 Sport, it is based on the Tiger 900 at the end of the day. So the chassis is taller, and that can be intimidating for some. For newbie riders or for people who are going to ride a big adventure bike for the first time, I think the 805 millimeter seat height of the Tiger 660 Sport is going to be a lot more manageable. As far as the weight goes, there's not going to be much to choose between the 850 Sport and the Tiger 660 Sport because the Trident is at around 189 kilos and the Tiger 850 Sport is at about 192 kilos. So the Tiger 660, I think, is going to be in that same ballpark. It's going to be a little heavier than the Trident is what I believe, with that quarter fairing and the additional equipment or the additional bodywork that you see on this motorcycle. This is more of a road tourer. That is why the word sport in the name. So the Tiger Sport 660 essentially is going to be road bias, tarmac bias. So don't expect any wire spoke wheels. In fact, the wheel sizes are going to be exactly similar to the Trident. So you're going to get 17-inch wheels shod with Michelin Pilot Road 5 tires. We love those tires on the Trident, and I think they're going to do a great job even on this motorcycle for the kind of intent that it has. As far as the suspension goes, I'm afraid it's going to share all of its components with the Trident, and I'm using the word afraid because I did mention to you that the Trident on some of the sharper bumps tends to bottom out on the front end, and I hope that they give more suspension travel to the Tiger 660 Sport purely to avoid this, because in all likelihood, this being a tourer, you're going to be traveling with a pillion and the luggage, and you don't want the bike bottoming out. Again, ground clearance is also something that was a big concern for many with the Trident. So coming from all of that, I hope that they give more suspension travel to the Tiger 660 Sport. In terms of the equipment, of course, you will get a TFT dash. I'm expecting it to be closer to what we've seen on the Tiger 850 Sport and not so much closer to what we've seen on the Trident. Essentially, the functionality will remain the same. You will have Bluetooth connectivity. You will have the GoPro remote capability. So all of that will remain the same. But in terms of the layout, I'm guessing that it's going to be closer to the Tiger 850 Sport. At least I'm hoping that it's going to be more like that machine. And finally, in terms of the pricing, I think it's going to be priced about 70,000 rupees more than the equivalent Trident 660, and that should make it an exceptionally good value for money package if they are able to price it around that zone. It will go up against the likes of the Versys 650. It will also go up against the V-Strom 650, and both these motorcycles have become quite expensive. And then you also have the Honda CB500X, which everyone is already complaining about when it comes to the pricing. So I think Triumph has a big opportunity here. If they are able to price it just about 70 to 75,000 rupees more than the Trident, they will have another winner on their hands. They will have big numbers coming in from this motorcycle as well. I think the biggest draw for the Tiger 660 Sport obviously is going to be its manageable size, its manageable power, that lovely triple cylinder engine. Sound of that triple is certainly going to work in its favor. The pricing should work in its favor as well if they're able to price it around the zone that I'm saying. And the overall styling, I think, looks quite good, and with the equipment on board, with that digital dash and everything, I think it will be a very compelling package. We will know more about it very soon. In fact, we are told that September is when they'll show us the final production version without the camouflage, and sometime around the first quarter of 2022 is when the Tiger Sport 660 will be launched in the Indian market. So it's not too far away. So if you've been waiting for that middleweight adventure tourer in this particular price bracket, I think there is something that you have to look forward to, and that is the Tiger Sport 660.